Hi everyone again, this is Rabbi Naftali with a short little insight about this week's Parsha and hopefully a great lesson to learn from this week's Parsha. And this Parsha, we have two Parshas, especially the second one, Acharei-Kedoshim. There's 51 different mitzvahs, a lot to learn from this week's Parsha. No way we can go through it all. Just one point, and one interesting point. One of the laws that we're learning is about you should rebuke your friend when you see him doing something not appropriate. And the commentaries talk about it. What is this mitzvah? To rebuke another Jew. What the explanation they give is that right after that, at the next verse, we'll learn about the next mitzvah is V'ahavta l'reach kamacha. Love your fellow Jew as you love yourself. And there's a reason why these two laws are one next to each other. To teach you, in order to rebuke your friend, you first have to love him. V'ahavta l'reach kamacha. You have to really, really love the person. And as long as you don't love the person, like the Torah says, you have no right to go and rebuke him. I remember one of my great rabbis, his name is Rabbi Gringlas, here in Montreal. He was telling me when he came to Montreal in 1942 with a group of 9 people altogether. And he established then the Jewish community, Chabad Jewish community in Montreal, with the first time opening the yeshiva over here. They got then a famous letter from the Rebbe at that time, the previous Rebbe. And he spoke to them at that letter. He writes as follows, that they should sit together and talk to each other and rebuke each other. This is what he uses as a term. But, he says, before you do that, make sure to cut off your nails. Rabbi Gringlas will always explain me that letter. He says we have to rebuke each other. My job is to tell you what to do. But the first thing the Rebbe taught me is I got to take off my nails. It's got to be first with a great love towards you. If we have a great love, it's V'ahavta l'reach kamocha. If I have the great love to another Jew, then I have the right to rebuke you. But the first things we have to know is V'ahavta l'reach kamocha. I have to have the love towards the person that I rebuke. And this reminds me to a famous story. We always share that story. And this is the time of the 5th Rebbe of Chabad, the Rebbe Rashab. And that time he established the yeshiva in Lubavitch, and one of the great teachers at the yeshiva was a fellow with the name Reb Meshulam, as by Hasidim they called him Reb Shilam. And the Rebbe Rashab passed by and he saw once the way he's teaching his students. And one particular student, he was rebuking him while the Rebbe passed by. He did not give any comments to the Rebbe about that. He did not say anything. He just watched it and then he continued walking. But the next day, he called in this rabbi, Reb Shilam, into his room, and he says, I gotta ask you a question. Yesterday, I watched you, the way you were rebuking the students. I didn't say anything, but I have to ask you a question. The rebuking, you did very well. But did you say to him for this student all night before we rebuked him? In other words, do you really care for him? You love him so much that you prayed for him all night he should become a better student before you rebuke him? Or you just rebuked him? When the Rebbe told him, I don't need you to answer me. I'm just telling you. That's the way it's got to be. In order to rebuke even your own student, you really have to care for him. You have to love him. It's got to be V'ahavta l'reach kamocha. So let's all take that beautiful lesson of this Parsha. That before I say anything to anyone else, the first thing is I have to have my great love. and my great devotion to another Jew. Ve'afta l'reacha kamecha. Have yourself, everybody, a good Shabbos, and share this beautiful Dvar Torah on your Shabbos table, and share the lesson how we should care and love each other. Good Shabbos.